Good night, my name is Lil Bazara Sareva. I am 38 years old today, and since I was 20 when I saw work and ended up settling there for the time by the Pantanal region, and like anyone else who lives there, I grew up hearing a lot of stories about things that nobody can explain. They say that a good Pantaneero always has a good story of terror, and in my family the responsible for telling these causes was my grandfather Abelino Sareva, man who lived in those woods and rivers since boy and saw and heard many things that would leave anyone with hair standing. When I was a teenager, I remember he always told two stories. One happened when he was very young and the another was when he was already a man, and he was sure that the stories he heard when he was a boy were all real. So let you as my grandfather Abelino Sareva, and the smartest beast who ever lived in the Pantanal. I was just a boy with my 16 years the first time I saw how evil can be cruel. We lived in a small house on a plot that is by a dirt road. Further ahead there was a big farmlands to be lost sight of, and inside from her there was more cattle that I could tell. Following a road far ahead there was a simple house that who did not know would swear that it was abandoned, but it was in this place that lived Eliomar, a man of 40 and little years who did not like much talk. He had 4 dogs of these large that were loose around the house and who passed by the front of the animals tied in the career. Had someone come close to the owner if he did not leave, because the dogs left soon up. My father at the time always passed in the way and back in front of the house of this man when he went to work, and noticed that it had been a few days that he did not see a man and also his dogs. About 4 days later he was passing early in the morning and saw 2 of the 4 dogs under a tree outside the fence and stopped in front of the house, but the dogs did not even look at him, suspicious and estranging everything that he hit palms. And no one saw him. Whistled and the dogs came wagging their tails with that half a meter of tongue out. He noticed that the poor people were very thirsty. He jumped, surrounded, and saw that the window was half open, and threw the bucket in Kasimba and pulled with a rope. At the time he let go on the floor, the dogs came quickly. Drink, Eliomar, Eliomar, cried my father in the direction of the house, but no one answered, so he thought it best to leave from there. But when he left the dogs followed him, and he told them to go back on the road. Found 2 friends and told what had done, and both said that on the way back they would spend with my father to see if Eliomar would be there, and so they did. There by 4 p.m. were returning. The 3 and passed, surrounded the house and called by the owner, but nothing from him answer. The dogs swung their tails contented by watching us, and it just made everything even stranger, because everyone there knew how fierce they were with those who approached. Was then that one of the men approached the window half open and was scared by what he saw inside. The floor was all dirty and stained with blood and marks. They went to the back door. The 3 followed a trail already dry, and he went to the back where there was a high bush. Continued until they found poor Eliomar, or what there was something left of him, dragged the poor man out of the house and took him for about 200 m, and there he was. This to better now that animal would have done it was a mystery. Would be an ounce or another feline. Was it was then that one of the men saw another strange trail, because the bush and grass where they found the man was lying well, and went on so doing. Another trail to the left. The bush was very lying as if something heavy had passed there. They took pieces of wood that they found along the way and followed. Was when they saw pieces of meat with flies, were several pieces, as if it was something to betray into a trap. And further ahead they saw that remained of a big pig of the bush, and also saw the 2 dogs that were missing were still alive but well wounded from where their owner was until where the pig was. Gave about 20 minutes walk and Mata well closed. Then my father spoke. The dogs came following the meat trail and moved far away from the house to eat the pig, so something took advantage and went to the house and picked up the poor Eliomar, who did it with. He knew the dogs were angry and would not let him approach, so he threw the pig as bait to catch the man alone in the house while the dogs were distracted, then took it out of the house and did when it finally took this trail and still wounded 2 of the 4 dogs. One of the men who were with my father spoke, but that then was not animal thing, was people, because to plan all this just being a person. They went out of there and soon everyone was aware of the event. I have no spears of what was done with what remains of the man, but the story that was told at that time was this: my father believes that whatever it was that caught the man planned it all well. Straight away he lured the dogs away and went to catch who he wanted. Many years passed since this happened, and I was already a man working in the night rounds of the farm, mounted on a horse with 3 more men in the region. Began to talk about a very strange animal that was hunting breeding animals, and those who worked at night redoubled attention. Already there by the backs of farm there were some little houses, and in one of them lived a young couple who had just won a child. All who worked there knew the couple, and they were very dear. We always passed to know how things went, and once at the end of an afternoon we stopped there in front, and the man who lived there that was called Steve Ao came to us and spoke. Careful with the night in these woods and in the dark. My dogs walked Latin in the last nights, and since yesterday I do not see them. At the time he said that I remembered in the time of the stories I heard when I was a teenager, and asked him to be careful and told what had happened years back, and the thing that took the man had never been caught. If it was a man or animal, for sure he was still out there. We did the round attentive, and I've never gotten so smart with kukumuvim kuku noise, because I knew the man animal It was night near when sen smell and when PROC says also disappeared pieces of a bush pig after the limits of the farm was the same pattern, the same city, the same thing that had attacked there almost 20 years ago now was back. First she fends off anything that can defend who he wants to attack, then looks for his victim who is totally in defense, but it seems not waiting for an attack must be a man because no animal, so I returned already in the morning at the house of the couple and told all my suspicions. Then as Steve Ao decided to take his wife away and leave her safe with the son, and I set a trap with him. If the thing obeys the pattern she would attack in the night that was to come, but this time would not find defensible victims and men waiting that night. I was the owner of the house and another in the Dalia, and just as I thought it happened about 11 o'clock we heard a loud noise of footsteps, seemed something would hit with all force on the wall but suddenly stopped. Then we just heard the bang in the back door and thought as a jaguar by snored is announced. We jumped the window that was in the middle of the house, and when we looked what was me almost did not believe what I saw. There was a gigantic animal standing right our front, was like a big dog with legs and arms so large that it was disjointed. The eyes were huge as the mouth, and the animal breathed and snored so loud that from far you heard it walked one side to out, and we were the three paralyzed Komau of the Demhi. Took a step forward and only heard a disaro well next to me that made the Monro Kambar. The animal flashed and jumped on the mat, but who had courage to follow them? We went back home, and in the morning we will follow a rastro. So Don, I did not think I would feel more fear than the night that had passed, but I felt we followed the blood trail until arriving in a distant house that I never had seen in my wanderings. Was a simple house that more seemed abandoned, but we saw a smoke coming out in the back. We were very slow and saw a lady sitting on a chair washing wounded arm with warm water. She, when he looked at us, said, well, if they do make soon send no later will not find me. I remember we walked back and away from the lady's house, so we came home to. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. In the night we'd heard a demon, but what we saw wounded was a lady who should have her 60 and something years. We went back to her house hours later, but we didn't find it anymore. The house was with doors and windows open. There were still some things inside, but as of the old lady we came back again by several days and no sign of the lady or the devil in the region. The thing we saw was the lady by day. She was just a normal old woman, but the night turned into that bug, so it was so smart, so it attracted dogs to away and then going after the owners. Surely my friends who heard this story up here, that lady was nothing more than a lobisomem. Good night.